Well met, adventurers! Sometimes our players are gonna want to gamble, be it just for them having a good time and trying to earn extra coin in a tavern, or if they actually make it all the way to a casino, or if they need to beat somebody at a game of chance for information. So this video contains 5 different mini dice games that you can throw at your players. So let's get into this. So yes, it is I, Nathaniel Gomezian, shopkeeper proprietor of Gaming Treasure Chest. In today's video, as I said, we're going to be going through 5 different mini dice games that you can throw at your players, as I said, be it in just like a tavern kind of thing, as like a little gambling games for them in order to gain coin, or be it, like I said, that they need to gather information and that the only way that they're going to do it is like some big bad of some thieves guild or whatever will only give away the information if they're beaten in a game of chance. And so these are a few of those kind of things that you can throw at your players. And as I said, if they make it all the way to a casino and just want to gamble some coin in different mini games while they're doing whatever they need to do at the casino. So let's get into the first one. So the first mini game that I have for you is called Free Card Brag. I'm calling it Free Card Brag because it actually legitimately is a game that was invented years ago, British game. It involves a standard deck of playing cards and each player gets dealt 3 cards. But for this one, you're going to be rolling 3 D6s. Now it can be as many players as you want. You can have everyone in the party rolling, or just a couple of people in the party if not everyone's up for gambling. You can have it so that all the players are against each other, or you can have it that all the players are against the house. So one person who's rolling and everyone's got to beat basically their hand is the idea of it. Or if you just want it that whoever's got the best hand wins the lot. You can do it either way. When describing this game to your players, you can say that it is cards, that everyone's being dealt cards. You want to say it as being like a card game kind of thing, or you can just have it that it is legitimately a dice game in your world, and so it's exactly the same one for one. But I said if you wanted to have it as being a card game, it makes sense as it being such. Now obviously this isn't actually cards, so there's not going to actually be any suits in this, so we're going to have to go about it a slightly different way when it's rolling with dice. So the lowest hand that you can have is high card, which basically just means high number, with 6 being the highest and 1 being the lowest. So if you've got nothing else, and you've only got a 6 or something like that, you might still be able to win, who knows, people might roll terribly. Now the next highest ranked hand after high card is a pair. On your 3 dice, if you roll 2 of the numbers as being the same number, that's a pair and that beats a high card. Now obviously they're ranked yet again in terms of how high the pair is, so obviously pair of 6s is the best that you can get in a pair with beating out a pair of 3s or whatever. Now the next highest ranked hand is a flush, and by a flush I mean, because obviously we're not using suits in this because these are dice, it is odds or even. So if all the dice that you've rolled are odd, or if all the dice you've rolled are even, that is a flush. Now pairs can be part of a flush, so let's say that somebody rolls 2 2s and they roll a 4 on their 3rd die, that is still going to count as a flush for evens because all the dice are even though you could say, oh well, they've got a pair. No, it is a flush because flushes are ranked as well, and by that I mean, let's say that, as I said, somebody rolled 2 2s and a 4. If somebody rolls a 2, a 4 and a 6, that's going to outrank that because the flush is actually with the 6 being the higher number. So the next highest ranked hand is a straight, and so that is all 3 of the numbers that you rolled being consecutively going up in some kind of way. So 1 2 3, or 3 4 5, or 4 5 6, along those kind of lines. And obviously the higher your straight is, the better there is. So 4 5 6 is the highest straight rally that you can have. But the final and most powerful hand being 3 of a kind. So all the die that you roll are all the same, and obviously 3 6s is the best ranked one, with 3 1s being the least ranked one, and that's the basics of how this card game works. But there is actually strategy to this game, and so let's get into how the actual game works. So the game starts with everyone putting in their ante, so it would be a set amount of gold. So let's just say for this there's 1 gold piece per player in order to play, and then they roll their 3 dice and keep them hidden from everyone else. Then starting at a point of the DM's choosing, or if you just want all the players to roll a d20 and whoever gets the highest is where the starting point is going to be, you start making your way around the table with each of them having a couple of options. Now number 1 is that they can just check, which means that they are just going to stay, not put any more money in, and they're not going to change any of their dice. Or the other option is that they can bet, so they can put the same amount as what the ante was. So in this one it was 1 gold, so they can increase the pot by 1 gold, and when they put in 1 gold they can make a decision between whether or not they want to just keep the dice that they've got, or they can re-roll a maximum of 2 of those dice. Once they do that, and yet again keep them hidden, it then moves to the next player, and if they want to stay in the game, they're going to have to yet again put that gold piece in to match the bet. Now yet again they can decide whether or not they want to re-roll up to 2 of their dice, or if they just want to stay with what they've got, and it makes its way around the table until everyone's either put in the gold or they've folded and decided, nope, I'm not going to put any more money in, I'm not going to be part of the game anymore. Bear in mind there is also the option to re-raise, where you can obviously re-raise the ante again. So somebody's put in 1 gold, so you put in 1 gold and an additional gold, and yet again it goes around the table until everyone has put in what the maximum bet is, or they have folded. Now I will say that you can put in the stipulation that when you get back round to the person who put in the initial bet, that they can only match whatever the bet is, and they can't re-raise themselves, because otherwise you might end up in just a continuous circle of everyone re-raising, 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 and never stop. So that's why I will just say, once it gets back round to the person who initially put the raise in, they can't re-raise themselves. So you will get to a point where once it makes its way round, then all the betting has happened and everyone's put in the same amount of money. Now you can have it that once that round of betting ends, then the game ends and everyone shows their hands, and whoever's got the highest wins all the money in the pot, or if 2 players have the same exact hand, then they split the pot between them evenly. There is also the option where you can do another round of betting, but this time when they bet, they can re-roll up to 1 of the die that are in front of them. So the first time they could roll 2, and this time they can only re-roll 1 of the die, and then once that round of betting happens, then the game ends. So you can do it either way. It depends on how long you want this little mini game to last, or how much strategy you want in there. So if we were to go through an example game here, let's say that both players put in 1 gold in order to play the game. The first player here, which is the blue player, rolls their dice and they actually get a pair of 6s, and the red player rolls their dice and they get a pair of 1s. Now obviously neither player knows what the other one has got, so the red player is going to bet 1 gold and they're going to re-roll that 2, and they get a 1, and therefore hitting 3 of a kind. Now the blue player is going to match that bet, and they are also going to re-roll the other die, which then gives them a 3. Now they've still got a pair of 6s, they still feel okay in this game. Now as I said, you can stop the game here and both players can reveal their dice, and the red player wins and takes all of those ones, or you could go into another round of betting where we start with the red player who is going to put in another gold, not re-roll any of their dice, and it goes to the blue player who is going to match that bet and actually put another bet in themselves, and they're going to re-roll this 1, which they get a 5, which sadly doesn't help them. But yet again, the red player is going to match that bet, and when they reveal their dice, the red player wins and wins all of that gold. That's the basics of how this 3-card brag goes down. And as I said at the beginning, you can do it that all the people playing the game are against each other, or you can have it that all the people playing are against 1 hand, which is obviously the house, and everyone who beats the house basically gets 1 for 1 on what they've bet. The house gives them back that, and if they lose, then obviously the house just takes that gold themselves. So it could be a fun little game to throw at them, be it, as I said, in a tavern or in a casino. Either way, like how this game Card Like has a place, because it's actually just a simple card game of chance, which just works perfectly for either way, whichever way you want to do this. So let's get into the next one. So the next game of chance you can throw at your players is completely ripped from a casino, and most of the times you will probably have this as in a casino setting. It can be in some taverns, but not every tavern might not have the facility, and by that I mean like a roulette table, because it is dice roulette is what this is. And I've even got a layout which I have in front of you right now, and I'll go through it a little bit more of the different bets that you can do at the table. But this is what I put together a little while ago on Paint. It's not the best, but if you wanted this print layout thing to be able to put on your table for your players to be able to bet on there, or even just to show them for online players where they can decide where they want to place their bets, you can actually download this from my Patreon. Now I will say you don't have to be a member of the Patreon in order to access this. This is actually on the free post, because most of the things that I put on here where I'm giving you guys information or want to give you guys handouts, I will never actually charge for it on the Patreon. If you want to support, you can do, and I very much appreciate it, but do not feel forced. But if you want that handout, it is there for free free, and the link will be down in the description below. So the game actually just runs like roulette would in an actual casino, where your players can place bets, be it odds, evens, black or red, or all the numbers from 1 to 10 or from 11 to 20, and that would be a 1-for-1 bet because it's like half of the board basically. And all you do as the DM is roll a d20. Whatever the number lands on, that's what the result is in terms of where the ball would stop rolling on the like a roulette spinny wheel kind of thing. But as I said, a d20 just rolls it very nicely. As you can see on the table that I have before you, there is also the ability to be able to choose a roll, which is 4-for-1. So if they choose one of the rows, and when you roll your d20, it hits one of the numbers in that row, then it is 4-for-1. Your players can actually do like a little bets that you can actually do on a normal roulette thing, where you can just put all your gold on one number, and if that number comes up, then that is 20-to-1. So the player will actually get 20 gold pieces back for the one that they've bet, which can make a devastating amount of money depending on how much gold they've put on it. But obviously the risk is very great just putting it all on one number. You can split between two numbers, which is 10-to-1, or you can split between four numbers, which is 5-to-1, as you can see from the different ways that I'm placing this gold on this thing, like the different numbers of which it covers. So just to throw out an example here, let's say that one player puts 2 gold on red, let's say that one player puts 2 gold on even, and let's say that one player puts 1 gold on 10. If us as the DM rolls the d20, it is actually a 16, and so this player loses. 16 is a black number, so the person who bet on reds also loses, but the player who bet on evens gets 2 gold back for the 2 gold that they put in, and they have won. It's quite simple and straightforward in the standard rules of roulette. But you don't have to go as in detail as that kind of thing for the roulette thing. That's just like, you know, what I've done just because like I go a little bit too crazy on these two things in terms of details. But I'd love to hear what you think about this down in the comment section down below, as well as if you actually download and use that and how it goes for you. Because I just made that roulette thing like a little while ago kind of thing. I used it and it was a lot of fun, and I hope that you find a lot of fun and whatnot from it as well. So if you do use it, I'd love to hear that. So anyway, regardless of that, on to the next one. So the next game of chance I've actually got kind of like 2 names for. You can either call it the Eyes of the Beholder or Beholder's Bluff. And the reason it's called that is because the game is played with 4 d10s, and basically like beholders have like 10 eye stalks that come out of their back with a little mini eyes. I've only got one big eye in the middle, but it's a 10 mini eyes, and so it's supposed to be like playing with their eyes kind of thing. But that's where the game got its name from anyway. But the game, as I said, is played with 4 d10s. They can be played with as many players as you want, as long as they've all got 4 d10s, because each player does need their own set of die for this. So the game starts with everyone putting in like whatever the minimum ante gold is in order to get involved in the game. So they put their gold in and they roll their 4d10 and keep them yet again hidden from all the other players. And then you make your way round, yet again starting from a point where you can have that either the DM decides where, or you can roll a d20 as I said, and whoever rolls the highest, that's where you're starting off from. And that player then reveals one of those d10s. Now they can choose whichever one of those 4 d10s they want to reveal. They can show that to the rest of the group, and then it continues on round where the next player shows their one, next player shows their one, next player shows their one. And then what happens is once you get back round to the person who first showed their d10, they can then decide whether or not they want to bet, stick, or fold. Now obviously when you're starting out, you're either just going to bet or stick. When you get on to the next person, if they bet and we make it all the way back round to the first person and they don't want to put any more coins in, then they can fold. Then yeah, again, you make your way around all the players with them either, as I said, meeting the raise, or they can re-raise. But as I said, if you make it back round to the person who put in the initial raise, they cannot re-raise, so you will end up with the end of the round being that either people have folded or you've still got players in. Then starting with the player next to the one who first started, or if they're folded, the one next to them, they then reveal another one of their d10s, and yet again the circle of play happens the same way that it did before, with people either folding, raising, like I put in the money in, and then get into the next round with yet again you starting with the player next to the player who was the original starter of the previous round, then yet again showing a d10, and the circle of betting happening all round again until everyone has only got 1 d10 that they're hiding behind. Then the game ends with all the remaining players revealing their last d10, and basically the sum of all their d10s is their points, and whoever's got the most points wins and gets all the gold. If yet again you have people who match the same number, then it is split between those two people, or however many people have got the same number. If it's somehow 3 people have got the same number, split the pot evenly between all the people, and that's how the game works. So let's go for a quick game of Beholder's Dice between 2 players. So again, both players put in their 1 gold each in order to play the game. Then both players roll their dice, hiding the results from each other. So this player here has rolled a 4, a 2, a 2 and a 4, and the other player has rolled a 7, a 4, an 8 and a 2. So the round starts with this player revealing their 4, and this player is also going to reveal their 4, and neither of them is going to bet. So this player is then going to reveal their 2, adding up to 6, and this player is then going to reveal their 4 and is going to decide to bet. The other player is going to meet that bet, and it then goes on to this player who reveals a 2, and this player reveals an 8. Now that the dice have been revealed, this player is going to bet 1, but this player, knowing that they've got 2 4s and a 2 which add up to 10, and the other player has got a 2, a 4 and an 8 which adds up to 14, the only die that they've got left is a 2, which is not going to equal this, so they are going to fold, and this player is going to take all of the winnings. And that's the basics behind how Beholder's Bluff works. So it's the magnificent game of Bluff in terms of the fact that, do you show your higher number to start off with to start making people panicking, or do you show your lower number knowing that you've got some higher numbers left and basically trying to psych out your opponents, and you can do that in whichever way you want, and that's why I love this game, because it's a stupid game that involves significant bluff depending on the psychology of what you decide to reveal to your players, with obviously what you're holding back from them as well. And then, as I said, the bet's going in, trying to psych out your opponent. Maybe you've rolled terribly, but you don't want to let them know that, so you start raising more money kind of thing to try and knock other players out. It's just a really funny game, which I think is a lot of fun to play. And yet again, I would love to hear what you think down in the comment section down below if there's any different way that you would play this game. But anyway, on to the next one. So the next game of chance I have for you is actually one that was given to me by my DM, which I thought this was a really fun game to have in a tavern. Yeah, again, it can be in a casino, but let's face it, most of the time when they're on the road and whatnot, your players are going to be playing things in taverns, and this is just a really perfect tavern game. And this game is a 1 versus 1 game, so it's not played by multiple players, it's just played by 2 people facing off against each other, and it's called Doom Dice. Sadly, it cannot be played with a standard set of dice, but because the game that I'm currently playing with this DM, we are all playing online, and so we are playing through Roll20, this game is possible through that, but you can just do it through a random number generator on somebody's phone. And the way that this game works is that you start with a D100 and one player rolls it, and whatever number it lands on, that's what the next dice is. And by that I mean, like I say, you roll a D100 and you get a 77, then the next dice roll is between 1 and 77. So that's why you need the random generator, and that you can't just do it with a standard set of dice, and then whatever you roll off to that 77, let's say you roll a 43, then the next die is a 43. And the idea of the game is that you don't want to roll a 1. Whoever rolls the 1 loses, and the other person gets whatever gold was bet. So the way that the game first starts off is that both players put in their ante, so whatever they agree on as being be 5 gold or be it 1 gold. I'm going to choose 1 gold just because it's easier to explain things. So they put in 1 gold each, and the first player rolls the D100, gets an 82 or something. It then goes to the next player, who can decide to either raise the bet, or they can just roll the dice straight away, and then yet again it goes down and it passes to the next player, who can decide to either raise the bet or they can roll the dice. Now at the beginning there might not be much raising, but as you get closer and closer to the 1, you might have people starting to raise because they're trying to stop the other person from wanting to continue playing. Because let's say that you get down to a 4, so you're on a D4 now, and you're thinking, okay, right, we're getting near to the 1, well I want to raise that bet higher because I could roll the 1, but obviously I can still roll the 2 or the 3. But if it moves to their go, and let's say that I rolled a 3 and then it gets to their go and they roll a 2, well then I'm definitely going to be stuck in a place where I'm either going to roll a 1 or a 2, and that's where we start to hit squeaky bum time of, I don't want to be losing this bet. So as you get closer and closer to the 1, that's when people start to bet more, because basically they're hoping it's going to knock the other person out, so they don't want to keep rolling. Because obviously, as I said, if you're rolling on a D4, you might roll a 4 and it moves to their 1 and they roll a 4, and then you roll it and it rolls down to a 2, so you can still get the same number that the die currently is. But as I said, the chances that slowly but surely going down and down and getting closer and closer to you potentially rolling the 1.
So giving you an example game of how Doom dice can go down in a D20 server, as I said, you can just use a random dice generator as well. Firstly, the first player is going to step up and roll a D100 and they get a 61. You can actually describe as the dice is being changed player to player, that it is moulded and manipulated down into the next size dice for the next player to use. So the next player picks up the die and they're going to be rolling a D61 and they roll a 35. The die then changes shape again and goes back to the original player who is going to roll that D35 and whoo, they roll a 2 and they can be in a very positive spot here, believing that the next player is going to lose the game. Now obviously the next player could roll a 2 and this could be squeaky bum time. So let's see what happens as the roll goes back to the other player as they roll their D2 and they roll a 2, putting the pressure back onto that first player again, who yet again, this is getting squeaky bum time now, and they roll their D2 and yet again it is a 2, putting it back to the other player, and finally boom, it is a 1 and they've lost the game and would lose whatever gold they put in and if there was any bets in between those. But that's just the exciting fun of Doom dice, that you never know which way it's going to go.
Now admittedly, sometimes miraculously this game can just end immediately of rolling a D100 and immediately rolling a 1, so the first player loses. It's very rare that happens, but it does happen, and that's why the game of chance of this is really amazing. And I love this game. It's an easy, fast, like a silly little game that you can throw at your players, whereby they can just put some money in, maybe they win, maybe they lose, it's all down to luck. And yeah, I really like the simplicity of this game. It does involve, as I said, a random number generator, so it's not just a standard set of dice, but it's still a really fun game. So I wanted to include it because I feel like you could have a lot of fun with this one. Anyway, on to the next one. And so the last game that I have for you this evening is called Chum, and it is actually a game that was made by another creator, so shout out to Nice Dice Games. I will actually put a link down below because they actually made a PDF of all the rules and whatnot that go into this game, so if you wanted to download that and show some love to the creator, then by all means please do so. So I will link that down below, as well as a link to their TikTok page, you know, like to show them some support and love because they came up with this game, and I think it's a really fun game because number one, it can be used as a fun dice game that you can throw at your players like in a tavern or whatnot, but it actually is the mechanics for if you wanted to put a fishing competition in front of your players where they're trying to get the best catch or whatnot out of a group of people. And this is a fun game to do that is played with dice, and the mechanics all make sense. So let me quickly show you and briefly explain the rules of Chum. So this game, you actually play with all 7 of your dice, and the first thing you do is you take out your D6 and put that to one side because your D6 is actually your fishing rod. And then what you do is you roll all your other dice and then put them to one side, and all the rolls on them, those are your fish and those are the values of your fish. And the way the game works is that you choose one of those fish that you want to go after, so whatever number's on it, you put it in front of you and you roll the D6. And the aim of the game is you want to roll at least half of whatever the value is. So if there's an 8 on the dice, you want to roll at least a 4 or higher, and that means that you can catch that fish. If you roll a 3 or lower, sadly that fish gets away and you put that to one side and that fish is out of the game for you. But if you caught that fish, you can actually use it as chum to be able to catch another bigger fish with your fishing rod. So you can choose which other fish you wanted to go for, put it in front of you, take the chum and put that there, and then roll your D6. And as long as that number which is on the chum and your fishing rod is yet again equal to or more than half the die, then you get that, and that is the amount of points that you get. But sadly, the fish that you've chummed is removed from the game, but obviously you've got a higher value there. And the idea is that you're trying to get the most high valued catch, and all the players basically play this game, and whoever's got the highest value at the end after all the dice are either caught or chummed or lost in terms of the fact that you weren't able to catch them is the winner, whoever's got the most accumulative points. So let's go for a quick game of chum. I'm going to take my D6 and put it to one side, and I'm going to roll the rest of the dice. And I'm going to try to catch this D4, which is actually just a 1, so it should be very simple to catch, and yep, I catch that. Now, one of the rules I forgot to mention is if you catch a fish, you can actually decide to re-roll it and throw it back in for a chance to get it. So I've re-rolled that, and it is now a 4, so I'm putting that back into the pond, if you like, to try and catch it again. So I am actually going to bring that 4 back out and go for the catch of it. Sadly, I rolled a 1, which means that that fish has got away and I've got to put it to one side. Now I'm going to grab one of these 8s, so I need to hope that I roll a 4 or higher, which I do, which means that I now grab this 8. But I'm going to decide I'm going to chum this 8 because I want to try and capture this 15, and obviously half of 15 would be 7.5, but you always round up in chums, so it would actually be 8 that I need to roll on a dice in order to catch this. And considering the fact that I've already chummed an 8, it doesn't matter what I've rolled, even though I've rolled a 1 on my 6, I already rolled the 8, so I've chummed this, so that gets rid of that dice, and I have captured the 15, so I've at least got 15. I'm now going to try and capture this 5, which I do. And then I'm going to try and capture this 8, which I sadly don't, so the 8 gets away. And so the last fish in the pond is a 9, and in order to catch that, I'm going to have to roll a 5 or higher. I could chum one of these ones, but I don't really want to take the risk right now. And sadly, I don't, so that one gets away. But my total points here is a 15 and a 5, leaving me with 20 points. So if I was against other people, I would hope that they wouldn't have scored 20 points. And that is the basics of how Chum works. And as I said, it's a nice little fun, simple, easy to learn game that you can throw in front of your players. As I said yet again, it can either be a dice game that's played in a tavern, or you could have it as a fishing competition. And I just think it's really good. So yet again, much love and shout out to Nice Dice Games who came up with this game, because I just think it's a really great concept in all honesty. So please show them some love. But anyway, I hope that maybe you got some entertainment from this video, as well as the fact that maybe you might use these games in your campaigns. Yet again, if you do, I would love to hear how they go, how your players receive them, because whenever I put these games in front of my players, they seem to enjoy them, but I would love to hear how other people have experienced them. So please let me know down in the comment section down below, as well as the fact that if you like this video and want to see more like it on D&D and whatnot, then why not consider hitting the subscribe button and helping this little channel out and helping this little man potentially achieve his dreams of entertaining people, as well as bringing them Dungeons and Dragons advice and such. But obviously, do not feel forced, those are your options. There is also the Discord server if you want to join that. I'm hoping to build up a lovely community of people who can all share ideas like these dice games and whatnot together, and puzzles and quests and such. So if you want to join that, please feel free to, but do not feel forced. Also, if you want to help out the channel financially, which obviously no obligation, do not feel forced to, there is obviously the Patreon, but you can get all the information for free from there. It's just if you want to help support, then you can do. There is also the Etsy store of Gaming Treasure Chest, where all the things on there are like Dungeons and Dragons, like dice rollers, dice holders and things like that I have designed myself, and I will 3D print and send to you. But those are your options. Do not feel forced into them. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much to everyone who enjoys and leaves comments and whatnot. Honest to God, I love reading through all of them, and it means so much to me that people actually value the stupid information that sprouts out of my mouth hole. So thank you so much for watching. Until next time, goodbye.